why IIM and why not MICA?
MICA is mainly focused on the creative side as far as I am aware.
So how would you define marketing?
It is not generating a need, but it is satisfying their wants, and marketing is selling that want.
So are you saying HR roles are not creative and they're not strategic?
What was my job profile? It was not as creative.
The HR was monotonous, you are getting into marketing. What if marketing becomes monotonous? Where will you go?
So just on the basis of the views and likes that they have got, can they say that it's a good metric to track?
No, definitely not.
India became independent, not because of the efforts of our own people, but because of Hitler.
To some extent, yes. This is because after the Second World War,
Don't you think gaming is a waste of time?
no, I do not think so.
Okay, Devashish, can you tell us something about yourself which is not mentioned in the form?
So my name is Devashish. I'll start by that. My interests are I like to play badminton, I like to go to the gym, I like going on walks. My interest lies in marketing. I enjoy working on creative projects and all that stuff. I've also freelanced work in that domain.
So how would you define marketing?
Marketing is catering to the needs of the consumer. It is not generating a need, but it is satisfying their wants. It is creating your product in a way that the consumer would derive some sort of value from your product.
So what is the difference between need and want?
Need is something which is inherent. For example, the basic needs for survival, which is food, clothing, shelter, and education. And want is something, for example, I need to eat food, I need rice for survival. But I could want a pizza or a burger, so that is want. And marketing is selling that want.
So you have done some work on digital creatives for Media Summit. So what is it all about?
So Media Summit is an undergraduate news festival sort of thing wherein journalists are involved to speak on a certain topic. For that topic, I did the digital creatives work, which included creating posters, brochures, managing their social media page, and handling their team and delegating the work accordingly.
What are you doing at this point of time?
At this point of time, I graduated in 2024. Since that, I have been preparing for CAT and OMETs.
Okay. But a lot of people take up jobs generally after they graduate. So you decided not to do that.
Yeah, I did some freelance work in between, but didn't go for a full-time job because my interest was in marketing. And even though my degree was media as a whole, it did touch upon marketing in some point. But to go for a full-fledged course, that's why I have been preparing for an MBA and rather than going for a marketing job directly.
Okay, but I can also see you worked as HR trainee coordinator.
Yeah.
So how does that fit into your whole marketing interest?
No, actually, initially I wanted to try HR as well, and I didn't quite enjoy that work. That's why I decided to shift to marketing as my interest completely in my end of third sem.
What happened in 2 months that you decided that, okay, I don't want to do it?
For me, I wanted to go for something which is creative and strategic. HR role, at least in the beginning, was very monotonous. It had same repetitive job, at least in my role, which I didn't enjoy as such. That's why I I wanted to switch to something more creative and liberal.
So are you saying HR roles are not creative and they're not strategic?
At least in the start where what was my job profile, it was not as creative.
But don't you think you would have gained also a lot of skills during this period?
Yeah, of course I did, but it was not something which aligned with myself or I could see myself doing for 4 to 5 years. I wanted something which actually I wanted marketing from the start itself. HR was something which I tried and I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would. That's why I wanted to continue with marketing.
Okay, so what's the guarantee that you will enjoy marketing? Because see, whatever idea of marketing that you have, you haven't really seen the world of marketing yet. You haven't been to B school yet. You haven't been to industry yet. So your idea might undergo change later.
Yeah.
So what is the guarantee that you will not find that job monotonous?
I don't think that I will find the marketing job monotonous because I did some freelance work in social media managing and marketing. I did enjoy that aspect. And I'm not saying that I'm going with a rigid or a fixed view that I want to end up in marketing. I'm open to explore more, but I want to be in the managerial space. And marketing, much more inclined towards marketing at this point in my life.
So for how many months did you do that freelance work?
4 months.
For 4 months.
Yeah.
And that too, it was a freelance work.
Yeah.
So you were not an employee as such, interested with responsibility.
I was.
Some responsibility was given,
Yeah.
but you were not an employee.
Yeah, not officially an employee.
Not
no.
officially an employee. So once you are in the corporate world, you are an employee. Certain responsibilities assigned to you. Yeah. So how can you relate your experience as a freelancer and then you found marketing exciting to that? It might change.
Yeah, it might change. That's why I'm saying I'm not going with a rigid viewpoint. I'm open to exploring, and of course, I will have to work full time in my life eventually. Freelance was something that I enjoyed for some time, and of course, I will want to switch to corporate and work full time in the marketing role.
Okay. Regarding your work as a social media manager, right? The freelancing that you did, I can see you have analyzed campaign performance metrics to refine strategies and achieve measurable improvements in reach and engagement.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what these metrics are?
So initially, the brand we work with had a target audience which they were aiming for. They were aiming for affluent urban women, since it was a jewelry brand, and the content they were producing was not in line with it was not that much in line with their target audience, as I noticed when I entered there. So I took a week. I went through their major competitors, what kind of content they were producing, what was working well from them. After that, we had a plan. First, we set some key metrics such as followers, views, and likes, and we set a particular goal that by the end of 2 months we want to increase it at least by 2x, and we ended up achieving it.
Is number of views or number of likes a good metric for the success of the brand? Or whatever campaign that you have done?
Yeah, for our campaign it was, we wanted to increase our reach and exposure, since our brand usually did trade shows and exhibitions. So we wanted to draw attention to their offline exhibitions.
Okay, but let's say, for example, let's talk about a movie, right? So they're going to release a movie and they release a trailer. Now the trailer has a lot of views and likes. But when people actually go and watch the movie is terrible. Okay. So just on the basis of the views and likes that they have got, can they say that it's a good metric to track?
No, definitely not. Views and likes itself are not enough of a metric to track or to know how good your product is. Views and likes are basically how much your product has exposure to a wider audience, and then it depends on the audience whether to go for your product or not.
Alright, I can see you've done a lot of things in your multimedia and mass communication program, and that includes video editing, social media handling, content writing, and so on. So don't you think you could have focused on one specific or 2-3 specific things rather than doing a lot of things? You have written like 10 things here.
Yeah, we were taught multiple things, so I have experience. In our undergraduate, we were exposed to multiple areas of mass media, ranging from advertising to journalism and everything that consists in them.
Can you walk me through your favorite advertisement?
My favorite advertisement has to be Ambuja Cement Ye Diwar Tootegi Kyun Nahi, because it is memorable, it increases the brand recall rate a lot, and it perfectly communicates what they are trying to show, that our cement is so strong that nothing can break it, and there is a humorous touch. That's why even after so many years we still remember it.
Okay. And any particular advertisement that you saw and felt like this is meaningless?
Surrogate ads, Rajnigandha ads, those, because they just want to put their name out there. That's why they use some random social awareness topic to push their brand name out there, even though that's not the actual product they aim to advertise.
What if you end up getting hired by somebody like the name that you said?
Yeah.
If you end up getting hired by them, would you work for them? And what kind of advertising changes would you do?
I don't think so I would work for them, because it is against my personal values. I do not believe in indulging in intoxicants or anything of that sort. So I don't think I would compromise on my principles.
Okay, is it more because of some principles, or is it because of the interest in fitness that you've written? That I saw that you've written you want to cut down sugar and things like that.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
more about fitness or your beliefs?
My beliefs in general. I don't think intoxicants do much good, especially Rajnigandha, which I know causes cancer and all that stuff. That's why I don't think I would work with a brand like that.
Okay.
So what is the full form of ITC?
Actually, it does not have a full form as of now. Earlier, it was Indian Tobacco Corporation.
And that is one of the dream organizations that you would like
Yeah,
to
but
work for.
they do not actively promote this, just intoxicant and such products. And they have stepped down from that full form, and they are just now ITC. It does not
It
stand.
doesn't matter, but still they sell cigarettes.
Yeah, I do not wish to work for that line of product.
So once you get into ITC, it's not in your control. Wherever they send you, you'll have to go there.
So I won't. I would mostly focus on FMCG line if they allow me to. Otherwise, I would go for other companies.
So you like advertising a lot.
Yeah.
So why IIM and why not MICA?
I don't want to just go in advertising. I want to go in marketing as a whole and a bit managerial strategy and creative role. MICA is mainly focused on the creative side as far as I am aware.
That means IIMs don't focus on creativity.
IIM do focus on creativity, but they also have the managerial aspect which I'm looking for, managerial and strategic aspect that I'm looking for.
Let's talk about your research paper. So it says unpublished research paper.
Yeah.
What do you mean by unpublished research?
Unpublished as in we participated in competitions and stuff, but we didn't get it published in an actual journal.
Fair enough. Planned obsolescence. So can you walk me through this?
Yeah, so planned obsolescence was a problem that we noticed firsthand. One of our friend was using an iPhone 6 and it was working really well. But the issue was whenever the Apple launches a new software update, they purposefully slow down the phone so that people would upgrade to the new products. Similarly, it goes for tube lights and LED bulbs. If they want, they could make it last around 10 to 20 years, but they end up going to waste in 5 years. This is because the company purposefully designs the product in such a way that their products go about waste, or they have a set expiry date on their products just so that the consumer must upgrade. It is mostly in tech. The company forces updates which slows down their older products.
Okay, the next paper that I can see is effectiveness of podcast advertising.
Yeah.
So what did you do in this project?
So it was that time when podcasts were on the uprise, and a lot of so-called social media gurus and people were going on podcast not to share their experience, but their main motive was to sell their product or sell their courses. And I was noticing that it is on the incline. So I wanted to conduct a research around my batchmates to know what is the effectiveness. Are people actually finding this trustworthy? Because usually ads are of 30 to 40 seconds. But if you have a continued 1 hour exposure to a particular individual, I wanted to see if it is more likely to persuade a person to agree to whatever they are selling, or it is irrelevant.
So what was the finding?
Yeah, people were more likely to understand and believe when a person has a 1 hour exposure with them, because they form a sort of a connect or an understanding of the person's entire story. They are not limited to a 30-second time frame. They have an entire hour to tell everything they want.
Okay. What was the sample size of the research?
Sample size was 100 students. So it was a really small sample size.
Okay. And you approached 100 students who are part of your college?
Yeah, it was focus interview. So it was basically the sample size of college students.
Is this the right methodology to have a sample?
No, it was for the population that I wanted to target, which was college students, because such gurus were selling this quit 9 to 5 and make some side hustle business to these individuals.
No, I'm more interested in the research methodology.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, is selecting 100 students from your own college. Is that the right way to go about research?
No, but with the limited resources and just one, me being the person conducting personal interviews, so I had to go for a small sample size. And the reason that the participants in this study were only my classmates was because they were more accessible to me. So, and I could not reach or get other people to sit with me for 30 minutes.
Okay. Now let's say you'd want to change that. How would you actually go about sampling? Let's say you want to do a wider study on effectiveness of podcast advertising. That's the research project. Now, how would you go about sampling?
So there is no limitation to resources. I would prefer to get all demographics included to see if even the 30s or 40-year-old who listen to such podcasts do have some effect. So sampling would go from, I would take around 5,000 individuals, ranging the demographic would be divided in age groups of.
How did you come up with this number 5,000?
5,000 is a good enough sample size in my, because there is less margin of error when the number is at least around 5,000.
Okay.
Yeah. So it would be divided in age groups and gender and geography in terms of the neighborhood they live in, plus their socio-economic status as well, like how much they're earning or where do they stand in the economic ladder as of now. And I would bifurcate the entire population in this categories, and then I will go on about taking their interviews and understanding what kind of effect it has across these demographics and which are more susceptible to such exposure.
Okay. You also mentioned gaming.
Yeah.
Don't you think gaming is a waste of time?
No, I do not think so. Gaming for me actually helps me spend time with my friends who are not in geographical bounds with me, but are maybe living in another country or another state. Spend time with them, have some fun. It's not like I'm addicted to gaming. I do play a game for sometimes to enjoy and to unwind with my friends.
So you got first rank in history in HSC board examination.
Yeah.
So what did you study then?
It was basic history, from Harappan civilization to modern Indian history.
To modern Indian history.
Yeah.
Okay. So did you study Second World War?
Yeah.
Okay. So can you tell me something about the Battle of Stalingrad?
I'm not aware of that actually.
Okay. So if I say that India became independent, not because of the efforts of our own people, but because of Hitler. Would you agree with that?
To some extent, yes. This is because after the Second World War, it took a toll on Britain, its army and its governance and treasury as a whole, because of which Britain became weak and it became difficult for Britain to manage all its colonies around the world. And I think that was one of the reasons that Britishers had to withdraw from a lot of their colonies.
Okay. What do you want to do in your, let's say, 5, 10, 15 years down the line? Where do you see yourself?
I see myself working in an FMCG company in a strategic marketing role, where I'm designing campaigns, working on initiatives, basically trying to connect with the audience in a unique way. And I want to make campaigns which do not just sell the product, but like Ambuja Cement, which are recallable for a very long time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Devashish, so your interview is over.
Yeah.
You can relax. Now we'll begin with the feedback. So how do you think it was?
I think I could have done better if I would have taken some more time to think on certain answers initially, because I was a bit all over the place.
Yeah, overall it was a good interview. Okay, of course there were some areas of improvement. Yeah. First of all, when I ask you about even before that, you mentioned that HR job or assignment that you did turned out to be monotonous. This is the last thing you want to mention in any interview. because otherwise the question that I ask you will come up. And you haven't seen the real world, real corporate world yet. So what is the guarantee that whichever job you get into will not turn out to be monotonous? So because HR was monotonous, you are getting into marketing. What if marketing becomes monotonous? Where will you go? Then, I tried to conduct what is called stress interview.
Yes.
Okay? Because I ask you the same question 2-3 times. And initially, you were saying, I want to go for marketing. But later on, you said that, yeah, my idea might undergo change. And towards the end, again you said, I want to go for marketing.
Yeah.
So that can be a disconnect there.
So I should stick to my original idea which I had personally, is what you're recommending.
And there are some other points. See, usually IIM Ahmedabad does not conduct stress interview, usually. But you never know. Okay? But if you mention something like, say, monotonous, you might invite trouble.
Okay.
Don't do that. Then your idea about this needs and wants and all, that is fine. Okay. And you mentioned that you want to get into strategic marketing role. So instead of saying strategic marketing role, because see, the moment you say something like this, you might invite some more follow-up questions based on that. And at this point, you can't know more than the professors who will take your interview. So if they want to grill you, then you can get into a messy situation from which it will become difficult to come out. Yeah? So you can always say that I want to get into a brand management. And then you gave example of Ambuja Cement. So my aim is to build something like this. That's fine. Yeah? But preferably don't throw jargons. Right?
Okay.
At this point. Then when I ask you why not MICA and why IIM, now considering your background, this question might come up. Okay? Now the idea that you want to convey is that MICA, whatever program they are offering, that is good, but it is not for me. My interests align better with what IIM has to offer.
Okay.
So don't downplay what MICA is. Okay? Because it happens that some IIM professors also, go to MICA after leaving IIM, and some professors might have come from MICA to IIM. So they may not take it very lightly. Then, you mentioned that you are preparing for CAT after graduation.
Yeah.
So this can be little bit of a gray area sort of thing.
Okay.
Considering your background, it should not matter so much. Okay. But if the question comes on that, then just one suggestion: see how whether it makes sense to you. Because ultimately it's your interview. I won't be coming to justify your answers.
Yes.
Okay? So if you are not convinced, you'll not be able to convince the other person.
Okay.
So try to create a winning story out of it.
In what sense?
So in the sense that, see, you are good enough academic background.
Yeah.
Right? And then at that point of time, I had to make a choice. Should I go for a job, or should I devote my time for CAT preparation while doing my other stuff, that freelancing
work,
and other thing. So the idea that you want to convey is that you are not doing only CAT, and you are also doing something else.
Okay.
And I took a calculated risk, because if I had been in a job that kept me working for say 12-14 hours a day, probably I wouldn't have been sitting here.
Yes.
So, but the thing is, you have to be able to justify your answer. Because if you say something like this and if you can't justify, that would be a problem. So see whether you can do this.
Okay.
But considering your background, I don't expect that question to come up. But if at all it comes.
Okay, sir.
Okay? The very first question that I ask you, tell me something about yourself which is not mentioned in the form.
Yeah.
So, were you expecting that question?
Not actually. I was going to talk about my gaming, but I took a step back because I don't know mentioning it in the initial part of the interview how it would look like.
At times in IIM Ahmedabad interview, they do ask this question. That was the first question asked to me.
Okay.
So, make sure that you have something interesting to talk about.
Okay. Right? Apart from academics.
Apart from anything which is mentioned in the
Okay,
form.
yeah.
Whatever thing you talk about should be interesting to the other person.
Okay.
So, you are from extended family, you have, whatever number of cousins and all. That's not the idea. They're not interested. Okay? So, anything that you can engage in a meaningful conversation, which is interesting to the other person.
Okay.
So, be prepared with that. And then, the last question that I ask you about history. See, what you said, I agree to a great extent. Okay, if the Second World War had not happened, probably we wouldn't have got independence in 1947. But still, saying something like this in a forum like interview may not be palatable to a lot of people.
Okay.
You have to be politically correct. So, what you can say is that our freedom struggle was going on, but this development expedited the process. Otherwise, we might have got independence in 1960s or 1970s.
Yes.
So,
this is my side. So, from my side, again, the first thing you could have used that as an opportunity to highlight what other things you are doing, right? So, you said, I play badminton, I go to the gym and all of that. But even there, if I talk about, say, something which is significant, for example, saying I play badminton versus I've been playing badminton for the last 5 years. The second sentence is more impactful, right? Or I'm somebody who has been in fitness since the last 7 years, right? I've been extremely regular when it comes to going to the gym. So make an impact using numbers, quantify things as much as possible.
Okay.
If you have any achievements there, you can talk about that also, right? Then we spoke about the HR. So the HR trainee coordinator basically does not fit into anything that you have done and you want to do, correct? It's just there. But saying that it is not creative and not strategic becomes a big problem.
Okay.
Right? For all you know, the professor who is sitting is from organizational behavior area and you have a problem now. Right? So I'll never say something like that, which is it is not creative, not strategic, because that field also has evolved.
Yeah.
Compared to the focus that was there on industrial relations like 30 years back versus what it is now. So don't say it was monotonous or things like that. Rather I would suggest that that's where I try to also push you by saying, were there any skills that you picked up there? Because you pick a lot of critical people skills, soft skills that are hard to pick otherwise. So the soft skills are more difficult to pick than the hard skills that are there. So that is why I'll talk about, okay, what elements from that experience you understood which are useful for even marketing or while dealing with people or understanding psychology of people, right? So that you could have spoken about. Then we spoke about social media manager work that you did as freelancer. Even there, if you quantify things, right? Because see, on your description of the job that you have done, nowhere you have written numbers. So if I say, for example, developed and executed end-to-end content creation, what is the extent, right? So did I create let's say 5 reels, or I wrote let's say 10 articles, right? So numbers are missing in the entire description. So that you can add even while saying, if you do that, it helps, right? Then the other thing that we spoke about was surrogate advertising and things like that, which was okay. So it shows that you have some understanding there. Okay, so then we spoke about the research papers, right? And that is where I started to grill you, because the research methodology is clearly missing, especially the second one, effectiveness of podcast advertising. You basically work on convenient sampling, whoever was accessible, you ask them. So when you say research papers in an IIM interview, these people are PhDs, right? And they have done a lot of research. They are going to get interested and they are going to ask you the methodology or what was the outcome, what sort of data analysis that you did. So please work on that. see what exactly was done and how to handle those kind of questions.
Okay.
Otherwise, in all the answers, one good thing is that though this was a stress interview, you never gave up. And that's a very good trait to have. You had a smile on your face. Even right now, you have a smile on your face, which is a good thing. So keep that positive spirit. I think that's a good thing. But build depth in your answers, right? So see, this is not a regular college level conversation. So you have to break that character and be somebody who is ready to enter a B school, which requires slightly more professionalism in terms of how you are communicating, how you are structuring your ideas and delivering it, right? So work on that. I think you have enough time to also work on it, and because you have good academic record and the things that you have done, you are in a position to say that, okay, I'm somebody who is interested in marketing because of all the things that you have done, whether it is advertising or content writing or the multimedia and mass communication. So things are working in favor for you. Make sure that you leverage that properly. Okay. Otherwise, good. So I wish you all the best.
Yeah, and one more point. You talked about that summit, right?
Media summit.
And then some journalists came there.
Yeah.
So where were they from? Newspaper journalists?
Newspaper and one online online news magazine, news portal journalist.
So whatever it is, you need not take the names of the journalists if you don't want to, right? But at least which newspapers they were affiliated with. Maybe Hindustan Times or Times of India or whatever. Okay. Then if you are talking about, say, badminton, then at times the conversation can get into the tournaments related to badminton. Thomas Cup and Uber Cup and all those things. So who won that tournament?
Okay. So I should be aware of those badminton.
Badminton in the sense, if you are mentioning badminton. Because quite a few IIM professors do follow sports. You did not mention soccer, but there are many professors who follow that English Premier League and all that stuff, Chelsea and all those teams.
Yes.
So that is where I am coming from. So in case you mention badminton, be mindful of this possibility.
Yes.
And then there is something called statistically significant sample. So you mentioned 5,000. On what basis did you come up with that number?
I think I remember that.
Why not 10,000?
I do not actually.
The larger the sample size, if it makes the representation better, it's not necessary. Then you can basically survey the entire population if there are no constraints. But there are always constraints. So that is why you have a sample.
Yeah.
And you need a statistically significant sample.
Yes.
So there is a formula to arrive at that number.
Okay.
So again, study that is what I wanted to say.
Okay.
So as long as your sample size is more than that statistically significant sample and sample is random, not a problem.
Yeah.
Okay. So instead of saying that some number like 5,000, because if there is a professor from statistics background, definitely they're going to ask on what basis do you get that number. So trying to highlight potential areas in which you can get into trouble.
Yes.
See?
But you can study it. It's not that you can't work on that. So study that, and I think you should be fine.
Mostly you will have more than a month.
Yeah.
So that is good enough time.
Okay, sir.
Otherwise, you are a good candidate. Okay, definitely. Okay. So all the very best.
Thank
All
you,
the
sir.
best.